It is exactly 9:51 a.m. Welcome back to the final 10 minutes of the show this morning, right here on News and Views. We have Gertrude, Quan, and Anjuli Maistry that are standing by to talk to us about something that's really very important, and it is new school law proposals. I understand this has caused a stir because it's dealing with issues around school suspensions, expulsion, compulsory attendance, and language of instruction policies. These are the continuous and contentious issues that we're going to be looking at, and let us understand what exactly is this suggesting as far as our little darlings are concerned. Good morning, welcome to the program, dear ladies.
Good morning, and thank you for having us.
Okay, Gertrude, can you tell me what is your designation? Anjuli, I do know that you are an attorney and you are representing, let's just have a quick look at that. You're the senior attorney, Equal Education Law Center. Welcome. Gertrude, tell us what's your designation, please.
I'm a law researcher at the Equal Education Law Center.
Oh, so you're both working together. So you're both speaking the same language this morning regarding this very contentious issue. Let me start with you, Gertrude. What should we as parents and educators be concerned about as far as this new bill is concerned?
Okay, so first of all, the BELA process seeks to bring about changes to the South African Schools Act as well as the Educators Employment Act. So I think as educators and parents, perhaps some of the red flags that you should be worried about is the criminalization of parents for failing to take their children who are of school-going age to school. Of course, the sale of alcohol, which is a much contentious issue. Corporal punishment, the fact that it's been abolished, yes, but we are concerned that there hasn't been alternatives to corporal punishment. And we are concerned about how that is going to mean for teachers in terms of how they should go about disciplining children when corporal punishment has been abolished, but we have not provided them with alternatives to that. So these are some of, yes.
Okay, let's bring Anjuli in, and let me just ask my producer to keep both the ladies' picture on screen, if you don't mind. Anjuli, very, very disconcerting because Gertrude just raised something. She's talking about the sale of alcohol. My goodness me, what does that mean? Who is selling the alcohol? And are you suggesting sale of alcohol on school premises?
Right. So just to give you a bit of background, because I think that this is one of the provisions that have parents, communities, and civil society organizations really concerned. So I'd like to give you a little bit of background on it. So what BELA is suggesting is a change that would allow the school governing body to apply to the head of department for a permit to allow the possession and consumption of alcohol at school activities or during private functions which are held on school premises. So it would include private functions, for example, church services, weddings, but then as far as school activities are concerned, that might include staff gatherings after hours. So those are just examples. But the key things to also know about that is that the functions can't be held during school hours. And the reason that it's supposed to be allowed, I think, is also quite important. It's to create an avenue for schools to supplement their resources. So it's a fundraising avenue, so to speak. And then BELA does suggest ways for this to be regulated. For example, through ensuring that a staff member monitors the function and ensures that it's not available to children. But I think a lot of civil society organizations and communities still don't feel that this is adequate.
No, neither do I might just add. The issue around criminal charges being laid against parents for not taking or not allowing the child to attend school. Would this be a child that is school ready and for whatever reason, it might be finances or any other such reasons that the parent is not able to take the child to school? Let's look at that scenario. Is there any situation where the parent would be exempt from criminal charges being laid against them?
I think the key word here should be parents who fail to take their children to school without just cause. So if there is a just cause, then I guess you cannot criminalize that parent. So, for instance, where a parent has tried by making an application to school, but then they tell them that the school is oversubscribed, then that is a just cause. You cannot criminalize such a parent if they've done what they should do as a parent to take their children to school, but there's just no space, for instance, in the schools. Or
Okay,
where, for
so
instance,
carry on.
where, for instance, due to transportation issues, maybe the child lives a distance away from the school, and because of poverty or other economic issues, the parent is unable to afford transport to take the child to school. Then I believe that would be a just cause. So we're talking
Okay,
about parents who just point blank refuse to take their children to school without a just cause. Yes.
Anjuli, back to you regarding just cause. Does government then make provision for those children? Because it is that child's constitutional right to be educated. But because there are factors around just cause, what provision is government making for that child or those children?
Well, I think that that's one of the issues, because Gertrude has spoken a lot to schools being oversubscribed, and the fact that you can go to a school and the school turns you away because they simply don't have space. And that boils down to exactly what the issue in BELA is that you might be criminalized for something that's out of your control. And to speak more to what government is doing, this is the reason that civil society organizations are up in arms about it, because there doesn't seem to be a link between what government is doing and these provisions.
Okay, so I, as a parent, if who's going to bring that criminal action against me if I do have just cause? My child is not. The school is overprescribed. They refuse to accept my child. Who is going to bring criminal charges against me, and how do I defend myself?
Thanks, Gertrude. If you wouldn't mind speaking a little bit more to that one, thanks.
Okay, so I suppose who would bring the criminal charge against you? Perhaps the Department of Basic Education can, and the High Court is also the upper guardian of all minors. So I suppose they will be able to bring a criminal charge against you.
But I can throw that back at them, can't I? Because I have just cause. The school was overprescribed. The other school in the area is 20 kilometers away. I can't afford the transport costs. So I can then bring counter charges against them, can't I? Anjuli, would you like to talk to me about that?
Well, what sort of counter charges are you thinking? Are you thinking along the lines of, for example, alleging that the Department of Basic Education is not actually doing their job insofar as they are?
Well, that could be one of the charges. Also, is it my fault? How can you hold me responsible for my child not attending school because the school refuses to accept him or her? It's oversubscribed. And I can't afford the fees to take a child 10 or 20 kilometers away. I'm unemployed.
Well, I mean, I think what you're hitting at over here is exactly the reason that civil society organizations and parents across the country are really worried about this, because it's really infrequent that parents are deliberately preventing their children from being able to attend school. And it's much more the case that parents are prevented through barriers that are in their way from being able to put their children in school. And so the provision doesn't really seem to speak to reality.
Gertrude, so if any parent finds themselves in this very horrible situation, can they come to people like yourself at the Equal Education Law Center for support and for guidance?
Absolutely. One of the issues that we've been battling with here is access to education. So every year we have this problem where schools are overly subscribed and learners just don't have placement. So they can come to us if they are faced with such issues. Absolutely, yes.
Okay. Also, every year without fail, year in and year out, it's the same old story where parents complain about the fact that they've been to 3 or 4 or more schools in their immediate environment and they just can't find placement at the schools. What do they do in a situation like that? Any one of you can respond to that question.
Well, one of the things that they can do is they can appeal against the decision to the school governing body or to the MEC. But the issue at the end of the day is that the Department of Basic Education, both nationally and provincially, need to be able to make a plan to ensure that all learners are able to access school, that there are enough schools and that there are enough school places at the end of the day.
Okay, that's not always possible, because if a school is full, it's full. There's just nothing that they can do to possibly admit 10 more learners or however many more learners that have fallen out of the system simply because the school is, full to capacity. In a situation like that, the parent could argue, I can't afford to transport my child. What sort of resources are available for the parent in that situation?
Well, some schools do offer transport to and from school, but for the most part, it isn't something that schools offer, particularly when the child is far away, and it isn't always something that parents are able to access. And so I think that in instances like that, we'd be really grateful to receive those cases from parents so that we can try to assist them and also try to lobby government to ensure that there are enough school spaces within the area in which the child lives. And in the event that that isn't possible, to make sure that there's transport to the nearest available school. But I think that in the first instance, the thing that would be most important to ensure is that a child is able to attend a school that's within the area that they live in.
What else do we need to be aware of as parents regarding the BELA bill? Just so that we are au fait with what might go down and are prepared for it.
Well, I'll answer one more question and then this question, and I'll also hand over to my colleague so that she's able to talk about other things that are of interest in the BELA bill. But one of the other things that hasn't been mentioned is that there's a definition in the BELA bill. The definition is of required documents, and those documents are documents that parents have to provide at admission in order for the learner to be admitted into school. And those include a lengthy list of documents that children don't often always have. So, for example, birth certificates, which we know many children across the country don't always have access to, asylum seeker permits, refugee permits, permanent residence permits, passports, etc. There was a judgment in 2019 that said that if you aren't able to provide identifying documents, you will still be able to access school. And so BELA sort of undoes a lot of the work that this judgment has created by requiring certain documents, and then saying later in BELA, if you aren't able to provide those documents, you'll still be able to attend school. But that fact will end up being lost in the sort of quagmire of the number of documents that children are supposed to be provided, and also they'll also be lost because I think it will make school staff and school administrators quite confused. And that's actually been the outcome, so to speak, of the judgment. We've seen that the implementation of the judgment, even though it clearly says that undocumented learners ought to be able to attend school, the implementation has been poor and seen learners being turned away. So with the new additions, I think it will be even bigger barrier for undocumented learners to be able to attend school.
Okay, Anjuli, I understand that you need to be at a court hearing at 10 o'clock. I suppose I need to let you go. Can we then cross over to Gertrude? Thank you very much for your time, valued, very highly valued. Gertrude, would you like to elaborate further?
Okay, so one of the concerns that we have, as I said earlier, is to do with corporal punishment. And whilst effort has been made, and we do appreciate those efforts to eliminate corporal punishment in schools, we are still concerned that at the moment, the Department of Basic Education and provincial education departments have not come up with alternatives to corporal punishment. So we sort of envisage the kind of alternative that takes into consideration restorative justice approaches. And we would like to see more.
Which would be what? Give us examples.
So punishment that sort of seeks to bring the wrongdoer per se back into the community. So it's not to inflict harm on the child, but to, yes, let them know that they are wrong, but then do it in such a way that it doesn't take away their dignity or cause them physical harm by inflicting physical pain or harm on their bodies. So we would like to see the DBE and provincial education departments come up with these things. So it's one step to abolish it, but it's another step to come up with alternatives.
a healthier alternative, not a
Absolutely.
harmful alternative. Let me ask you this question, and obviously we've seen a lot of this playing out, violence, in the schoolyard or in schoolrooms, where learners are attacking other learners. We've even had teachers being hurt and harmed and killed. Does your organization get involved in trying to understand the dynamics and to try and prevent those type of issues playing out in schoolrooms and schoolyards? What is it that needs to happen to prevent this scourge continuing in our country?
That's a good question. So we have had a couple of complaints or issues regarding corporal punishment here at our law clinic centers. And I think that it is something that the school governing body, as well as school principal and the parents and community as a whole, need to come together to solve the issue of violence in schools. And which is why I just want to add which is why the sale of alcohol is not, a pleasant thing to do, because we already have various issues of violence, as you've rightfully mentioned. So I think it's an issue for the Department of Basic Education, parents, community, teachers, school governing bodies to sort of sit together and talk together and find solutions to it.
Okay, with 2 minutes to wrap up, is there anything else of importance that we ought to know? And how are you, as the Equal Education Law Center, further supporting the school-going public and their parents, including the educators, because they play a huge role, do they not, the educators? They too need to be protected.
Absolutely. They are governed by the Educators Employment Act. So this is why we are making statements, we are making various submissions, we are liaising with other organizations like ourselves, such as the Center for Child Law, the Legal Resources Center, Equal Education, our sister organization, to make sure that some of these red flags in the proposed amendments are dealt with.
Gertrude, Quan, how long before it's passed? I know that you have asked for the public and interested role players to comment.
Yes.
When will this be passed?
Unfortunately, I cannot give you an answer to that. It can take a while. This process started way back in 2018. So we are making progress, but I cannot say. That is for Parliament to say when the bill will be passed exactly. But yeah, we are giving input, and we are hoping that our inputs are taken into consideration for all of us.
Gertrude, Quan, an absolute pleasure talking with you and Anjuli Maistry regarding the future leaders of our country, because that's what they are, little people attending school and mapping a way for themselves, mapping a way forward for themselves. So thank you indeed. Continue the amazing work and have a great day.
Thank you very much.
It is exactly 10:09, time for me to wrap up. Thank you indeed for your time and your company. Keep warm. It's going to be quite cold in the coming days, so please do keep snug and warm. A reminder also, inshallah, that Juz 13 will be recited by Sheikh Tawfiq Ibn As-Sa'ir. Please listen to that beautiful recitation. Take care on the roads. Until tomorrow morning, as always, a big thank you to the production team. And it is Assalamu alaikum and Khuda Hafiz from me, Julie Ali.